Hello everyone and welcome back to the Winners Club podcast. Now in today's new freestyle episode, we discuss the misunderstanding and abuse of dopamine usage in today's society. Now again, if you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and also turn on the bell notifications. That way you never miss an update of when we post. Take a look at our socials. The link will be down below in the description, as well as the audio version of this episode. That'll be linked down below in the description. And now we hope you'll have a lovely day and a great week. Now let's get into today's freestyle.
Live. So this is our first podcast back, at least with all three of us. We're all back from school. I had a very long semester. We hope you guys had a wonderful semester, got good grades on your finals and your classes. So what are we talking about today, boys?
First, bro, I'm anxious about what I got on my finals and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm praying for good luck too. I don't know.
Yeah, same, man.
I'm a little worried.
Check in.
I'm anxiously checking, man. But anyways, so today we're talking about earned dopamine, and dopamine is something that I feel a lot of people misunderstand and where it circulates from. So real quick, like dopamine, what does that ring a bell to for you guys?
Just excitement,
Yeah.
like constantly getting excited. I mean, when you say dopamine, the first thing is like social media. It's the perfect example to
For sure.
artificial dopamine, especially now with, students and, teenagers. What they're doing constantly is checking their phones, checking their social media. And I think it's affecting today's society negatively, I would say.
Yeah, first thing that comes to mind, like Brett said, social media is the biggest one. Anything that kind of brings a jolt of happiness real quick. And, it could even be like video games too, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anything where it's almost like a release of stress and kind of like a jolt of happiness. Even the gym, even though we don't like talking about the gym that much, but you know what I'm saying?
That's fair. That's fair. I would agree with you guys, and I also want to add that dopamine, I feel like dopamine's something that is achieved by any kind of habit or tendency. And I mean, especially nowadays, like what Brett said with like media and stuff like that. Same thing with like food. If somebody eats like a bag of hot Cheetos, they get dopamine from that, but did they really earn the dopamine?
Yeah.
So when we look back to our ancestors, and I've studied Stoicism, I've read a few books, and I gave you the book that I read, so you'll learn more about it too. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. They talk a lot about earning things, because dopamine is like a prize. It's a reward. We need to earn this thing. So if we wake up every day and we're just force-fed artificial dopamine, media, poor food, lack of sunlight, playing video games, you know what I mean? That is dopamine, but it has not been earned. And that's going to overlap, and that's going to create actually a loss of dopamine, and it's definitely going to pry you away from natural dopamine, quality sunlight, healthy foods, exercise, things like that, where we can earn it. So I was just wanting to talk about how do you feel that our generation in particular, because today at work I was talking to my boss about it, and our generation really struggles with the attachment to artificial dopamine, for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So what would you guys say about that? What are some observations you have about that?
I'll start off. So I like the example you gave, sort of how our ancestors and they had to work for the dopamine. They didn't have all this access to we have nowadays. Like, example, you said food. I think, we can wake up and we have food in our pantry. We have food in our fridge. We didn't have to do like hunter and gather. We didn't have to go out, kill an animal, and then wait a long time. And that was our reward, was the food we prepared and ate with the fire. That's sort of like the past of the first, I guess, example of dopamine. But I think nowadays people are just abusing the dopamine. They're always wanting that next jolt of excitement, that what's next. They're not sort of, I guess, present with themselves, present in the moment of, what they're actually working towards.
No, I completely agree. And, I think it's really the laziness. Like, obviously, natural dopamine, it's like you got to really go work for it. I mean, I'm not really saying you have to work for natural sunlight, but you got to go outside, go exercise.
Got to put a little effort in.
Like, right, you got to put a little effort in, right? And, I'm going to refer to, like Chop Wood, Carry Water, the book that you were reading, right? Mm-hmm. They had to chop wood and carry water to eventually get what?
They have to get, clean water to shower and bathe in and drink.
Right.
And
exactly.
wood for fire.
So like from our ancestors, they actually had to work for that stuff, but in this generation, everything is handed to us, on a silver platter. So it's not like, so aside from actually working hard, people are like, oh, I could just go get it the easy way. And it could be kind of mediocre, but they still would rather take the easy way because once again, our brains are programmed nowadays to choose the least path of resistance.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Took the words right out of his mouth, man. Yeah. But I think it's crazy how this generation, it's like, we're just getting, we've said this millions of times in other podcasts, like it's just getting lazier and lazier and lazier, and everything's artificial. Like they just want to get it from here to there. And then, but when you get there, you have happiness for like what? It's temporary happiness. It's not permanent. If you actually work hard to achieve something in the long run and get that natural dopamine, it's going to be there for way longer than just from here to here. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like what I think about it.
For sure. I'm gonna draw two parallels. I'm gonna say what I believe it is, or I guess where our brains derive from just constantly checking our phones for false dopamine is number one. I think it's just number one by a landslide is the fear of boredom. Whenever somebody checks their phone, even if it's a mid-conversation where you're genuinely present with someone else. So picture this. Imagine you're on a date with someone and they pull out their phone and they'd rather engage with somebody else who's not even present with them in that moment rather than pick up their two eyes and look at you and have a conversation. That's where we're at in today's world, and everything's handed to us very fast. I mean, I heard Simon Sinek talk about this on a TED Talk. He was saying how everything is accessible for our generation. And when I refer to generation, I mean the age cohort of 18 to 24 years old. There's obviously high suicide rates. There's obviously high school shooting rates. It's all particularly in this age group. So what's actually happening is that we're all very scared of boredom. We all are constantly engaging in our, medias and things like that. But let's take a step back and remember where we were as kids. When we were bored, what did we do? We interacted with one another. We played with one another. We went outside. The kids nowadays aren't doing that. You know what I mean? So now the kids are not severely unsocial. I mean, they're antisocial beings. We see work from home. We were not designed as human beings to sit on a screen 24/7. And it really is 24/7. If you were to break down the average screen time in America, it is 11 hours per day. And we drew the stat a while ago. So that is number one. It's the fear of boredom. That is by a landslide, and it totally affects everything. You just have to be conscious of it. Number two, I think it's the lack of discipline. It's so normal now, and it renders right into our subconscious that we are not even aware of how often we check our phones. And I'm really gonna say phones because I feel like that's just it's the little device that you pull out of your pocket just like that. You could check, similar to a vape. You know what I mean? It's so accessible. You can carry it on you whenever you need to. You check it. You know what I mean? So it's these little devices that are handcrafted to be so accessible. Obviously, humans have addiction traits and stuff like that in our personalities. I mean, I don't know. I think it's the lack of discipline, not understanding when you pull out your phone, you're totally losing consciousness in the present moment. And I think it's a good thing to be bored, though. I definitely think people get their best ideas when they're bored, for sure. I remember, just daydreaming about random things when I was bored. Coincidentally, they started, happening. Uh-huh. And I think that's where deja vu is formed. Because when you're bored and we think and our minds go crazy, we envision ourselves in the present moment. Mm-hmm. Because it's hard to be present in the actual moment, but we imagine some things when we daydream. So then when it actually occurs in real life, like we talk about manifesting, it feels so vivid. Do you know what I mean? It's because we've allowed ourselves boredom. But you can imagine amazing things. You can imagine yourself being a millionaire. Jim Carrey used to, it's a form of visualization in a way. And Jim Carrey goes on and on about this in so many TED Talks. About the power of the mind and understanding your boredom and translating that into a purpose. So that's another thing I wanted to talk about. I know I'm giving a whole spiel, but I also feel that people check their phones so much because they don't have a purpose. It's not, we're living in a world right now that's addicted to consuming with zero purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tell me a time when you guys have felt shitty. where you've had something that you've really strongly aimed at, but you feel really depressed with yourself, and you want to kill yourself at that point because we're seeing suicide rates increase so much. If you have a strong purpose, have you ever had that thought occur to you?
No.
Me neither.
Not at all.
But what about, because we all had our own experiences, what about when you're so consumed in media, getting all this artificial dopamine? It's like, think about it like this. You're absorbing, it's basically like drinking faucet water every single day instead of drinking purified water. You're consuming, it's the quick and easy way, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to sit there and fill up their water cup for like 2 more minutes, but you know that it's way more rewarding for your health because it's purified water rather than just opening the faucet with a bunch of microplastics in it. You know what I mean? It's the same kind of logic. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. I talked a lot, so.
I can go, but no, I completely agree with what you're saying. From my experience, I used to be literally playing video games for like not even 6 to 8 hours a day, dude. It is, let me tell you, it's so freaking depressing.
It's draining too.
When you turn it off after that and just have that one-on-one with yourself, it's like, dude, I wasted 6 to 8 hours of my day on pretty much just dopamine, artificial dopamine that I'm not earning anything from it. I haven't made any money. I haven't made any connections. I haven't done anything for myself, rewarding myself to have that time. And I think it's so much better if I, did something that day and then played for an hour. That's, rewarding. That's, what is it called? I can't think of the word. Delayed gratification. That's what it is. But go ahead, Miles.
I agree. So I think during quarantine, that's really when it was the spike. You know what
For
I'm saying? Because
sure.
like nobody was going
100%.
outside.
For
You know,
sure.
we were playing Warzone all day, and then dude, you felt like shit after. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you couldn't go outside. But even after that, people still got so used to it to the point where, I still don't have to go outside when they could go outside. You know what I'm saying? So I think that really screwed our generation big, especially kids that were like in elementary school at that point.
Yeah.
That are not mature enough to really realize it and get it. But I think that was very detrimental for us, especially, not being able to go outside and just having nothing but technology, you know what I'm saying? But dopamine itself, I could talk about this for hours, I'd like to say stealing is another form of dopamine. I saw a video, I think maybe you sent it to me or somebody sent it to me on TikTok. It was a guy where he was talking about like people steal because they can't envision them having those things.
Oh yeah,
I saw that.
Did you send me
I
that?
think we sent it to the group chat. One of us did.
Okay, yeah.
One of us did.
So, but it's true though. If you're stealing to get that artificial dopamine for that small amount of time because you can envision that in the long run of you actually getting that, whether it's getting that car or getting that phone or getting that clothing item or whatever. You steal it because you can envision yourself having it because you chasing that dopamine. Dopamine is still almost like a drug. It's like you're chasing that high, right? Once you steal something and you get it, you want to do it even more and more and more. But eventually you're going to crash and burn and get into a depressive state.
Dopamine is the leading cause of addiction. When people do, Andrew Huberman talked about this, when people consume a bunch of cocaine, for instance, they get 2 times the normal amount or something like that of dopamine. But cold showers, he was talking about this, that's why how I found about it. Cold showers do the same thing. It's the same kind of dopamine shock as cocaine. So I don't know if anybody's out there who feels depressed, wake yourself up. Wake yourself up with something like that could shock your brain. But I just wanted to say that because I saw that too.
No, you're good. You're good. I know. I wanted to bring up an example like way back before when we were talking about like dopamine, like when we were kids and stuff.
Yes.
So do you guys know how like whenever you drove past a McDonald's, right? And it was like, Mom, can we get McDonald's? And she was like, oh, well, we got food at home, right? That's the stuff I'm talking about, right? It's like that artificial jolt of happiness because you want that artificial stuff that's going to be bad for you, but it's for your own happiness. But it's temporary. If you go home and eat what your mom cooks, yeah, it may not make you feel the same way, but in the long run, it's better for you.
For sure.
So stuff like that, So.
Well, like, even when we eat some shit like McDonald's, like, for instance, like, all, like, the compounded things, like I'm very into, like, whole foods, like, real food, not processed bullshit. So it's like somebody who's eating, like, a McDonald's burger, give that an example. After you eat it, how do you feel? Obviously, like, shit. You feel very tired, too. You remember how many times when we think about high school, after we ate the school lunch, did you feel like a jolt of energy? No, you felt drained, tired, and wanted to go home.
Even the salad.
So of course. So that's what happens though, is we seek things for the immediate, short term, where it's like, okay, I can wait 2 hours and go home for a home cooked meal, or I could eat the school meal, something like that. But what actually happens is, like, our bodies take our own individual energy to then process and digest the foods that we just ate that are actually highly processed. So after we eat those things, we're drained of energy rather than being consumed with energy. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? It's all because of our intrusive thoughts and instincts to chase that quick, sudden dopamine. Have you ever seen somebody who's shredded who eats McDonald's 24/7 and feels amazing? No. This is just not something that happens.
If they are, they're on roids.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Clear as that.
Yeah. Shots fired. But, yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. We just live in a world of consumption, least path of resistance.
Yeah.
And especially, I feel that I'm going to go back to what I said earlier about kind of how we all felt when we were doing all these things. I from my own experiences, I remember that I was severely addicted to media, much like video games and depressing music too. I mean, that all has an influence on it. Yeah. But it's because I was receiving gratification, false understanding from an artist that doesn't even know me. You know what I mean? Like, Frank Ocean has no idea who I am. So this was pleasure in the moment, but obviously this is super, super detrimental to me long term. All caught up to me. I had a bit of a depression. But then after that, I started forming ideas of, okay, I can do this for my long-term dopamine. And it feels much like a reward. And I really like that example you gave of would I rather play video games for 6 hours during the day or 1 hour at night after I finish everything? Yeah. Something like that, where you could still have positive stimulants. You know what I mean? Like video games is not bad. It's actually a very effective way of communicating with friends. Yep. You know what I mean? You guys are all competing together. You're all hanging out and talking. Well, not hanging out, talking. Hanging out's not really possible in video games, but it's a very effective form of sociability. But when you rely on that too much and you have no discipline with it, I mean, look at it. What happens? And people play video games too long because they're bored. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially when you're playing 6-7 hours a day. It's not like you're playing that long out of sheer fun and excitement. It's because now you're kind of just bored, so you're not going to get off the game. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what I really want to go back to, is that we need to wake up as young people in this world and understand that our consciousness is our most powerful weapon in the entire world. If we just become conscious of things that could possibly affect us, our lives will immediately change.
Now, I hope you enjoyed today's listen to the new Freestyle. Again, if you were new to the channel, make sure to like and leave a comment down below what you thought of today's topic. We appreciate any feedback we receive. And also make sure to subscribe, as we have a new episode coming up next Sunday, which we are talking about the law of attraction. So if that interests you, make sure to like and also subscribe. You can also follow our socials. All that will be linked down below in the description. And we hope you all have a lovely day and a great week. And until next time.